He shouted again, louder, angrier. The soldiers moved faster now, scanning every rock, every shadow. They were hunting. "I'm not leaving you," he said quietly, even though he knew he should run. He knew he couldn't, not after pulling her from the burning wreck, not after carrying her through fire and explosion. Leaving her now felt wrong, impossible, but the fear in her voice was real. The first alien ship landed with a metallic scream. Its legs slammed into ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. A ramp opened, releasing cold mist like breath from a monster. Evan stepped back, holding the Queen steady. Her body was trembling, too weak to move on her own. He looked at the sky as more ships landed around them, forming a circle. He felt like a single ant in the middle of giants. The Queen gasped in pain and grabbed his arm. "Hide us, please," she whispered. Evan scanned the area quickly. Only rocks and broken ground, nothing more. But he saw a group of sharp stone pillars nearby, enough to shield him for a few seconds at least. He lifted the Queen again and moved fast. His legs hurt, his lungs burned, but he ran anyway. He reached the rocks just as more alien engines roared overhead. He placed the Queen behind the largest stone and knelt beside her. She clutched her chest, breathing heavily. Her eyes closed again. Evan felt panic rise inside him. He didn't know her biology, didn't know how to help her. He only knew she was fading. He whispered, "Stay awake, please stay awake." But she didn't respond. A loud metallic stomp echoed from the landing site. Evan peeked from behind the stone and froze. A tall alien warrior walked down the ramp, twice the size of a human, covered in dark silver armor that looked like living metal. A glowing spear hummed in his hand. His movements were sharp, controlled, powerful. Behind him, more soldiers marched out, forming a tight formation. The leader raised his head and shouted something in their language. The sound was sharp, angry, like a blade slicing through the air. The soldiers spread out, searching the area. Evan knew they would find him soon. He held his breath as the leader stepped forward. The warrior removed his helmet, and Evan saw a face marked with deep violet lines and glowing yellow eyes. This alien looked deadly even without armor. But then Evan saw something change in the warrior's expression. Shock, fear, and rage all mixed together. The warrior had seen the Queen. The Queen's glowing eyes opened again, full of fear. She tried to lift her hand but failed. Her strength was fading fast. Suddenly one of the soldiers shouted. He had seen footprints leading to the rocks. RHYX turned his head sharply. His eyes narrowed and Evan already knew who they were hunting for. The Queen stirred weakly. "My guard commander, RHYX, he will kill you," she whispered. Her voice was fading, but her fear was clear. Evan stared at the warrior and felt a cold wave run through his spine. Commander RHYX did not look like someone who forgave anything. A loud crack split the air as RHYX slammed his spear into the ground. Energy rippled across the sand, blowing dust everywhere. Evan covered the Queen to shield her from the blast. The pulse shook the stones around them. And then RHYX turned sharply in their direction. He had sensed something. Evan felt his heart thump like a drum inside his chest. RHYX raised his hand. Half his soldiers moved toward the rocks where Evan hid. Step by step, they came closer. Every footstep sounded heavier than the last. Evan gripped the Queen's hand, not sure why he did it. Maybe for comfort, maybe for his own, he whispered. "If they find us, I'll talk to them. Maybe they'll understand." The Queen shook her head weakly. "No, they will not listen, not before killing you." Evan swallowed hard. The rocks above them shook as heavy boots stepped across them. Voices whispered in an alien tongue. He held still, barely breathing, a predator ready to strike. He moved toward the rocks with fast, angry steps. His armor hummed with power. His spear glowed brighter. Evan knew the hiding was over. He stood up slowly, raising his hands. He stepped out from behind the rock. The soldiers aimed their weapons at him instantly. RHYX stopped only a few steps away. His eyes burned with rage. A human touching royal blood, a human at the scene of the Queen's crash. RHYX's voice thundered across the desert. "Execution," he growled. The soldiers tightened their aim, ready to fire behind Evan. The Queen tried to speak, but weak breath stopped her words. Evan looked at RHYX and felt fear crawl through his body. He had saved the Queen's life, but now her own guard would kill him for it. And the worst part was this. The Queen was too weak to save him. Not this time. The air around Evan felt heavy, as if the whole desert was holding its breath. Commander RHYX stood in front of him like a metal mountain. His armor glowed faintly. His spear hummed with deadly energy. Every alien soldier around him aimed their weapons, waiting for the order to kill. Evan's hand stayed raised, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his fingers. RHYX stared at him with burning yellow eyes. There was no curiosity in them, no confusion, only pure anger. He looked at Evan as if the human was poised in the Queen's world. RHYX stepped forward slowly, each step loud and final in the silent desert. The soldiers followed his movements, their armor clicking softly like sharp teeth. "You," RHYX growled, his voice deep and rough. "Human," he said the word as if it tasted like dirt. "You touched the Queen. You stood near her, you breathed the same air." His anger grew with every word. "Your crime is death." Evan swallowed hard. He wanted to speak, but his voice felt trapped in his throat. He forced out the words. "I saved her. She was dying in the wreck." But RHYX did not care. His armor flared with light as he tightened his grip on the spear. "Human lies mean nothing," he snapped. Evan shook his head. "It's the truth." He took a small step back as RHYX advanced. "I pulled her from the fire. I carried her." RHYX raised a spear, ready to strike. His soldiers took a step closer, forming a circle around the human. The commander's voice was cold. "No creature touches royal blood and lives." Behind Evan, a weak voice whispered. RHYX stopped. The Queen tried to sit up, but she fell back against a rock. Her strength was fading again. Her breathing was slow and painful. Evan turned slightly toward her, worry in his eyes. RHYX's expression changed when he heard her voice, but it did not soften. It hardened even more. He pointed the spear at Evan's chest. "You have harmed her," he growled. Evan shook his head quickly. "No, I saved her." RHYX snarled. "You brought her out erect to finish her life on the sand." Evan blinked, shocked. "Why would I do that?" RHYX ignored the question. To the commander, humans were dangerous, selfish creatures who destroyed worlds for resources, creatures who could not be trusted with anything. The soldiers tightened their formation. Their weapons hummed softly, ready to fire. Evan felt the energy in the air like hot needles on his skin. He knew one wrong move meant death. He kept his hands up and forced himself to stay still. RHYX lowered the spear point slowly until it touched Evan's shirt. A small spark jumped from it, burning a tiny hole. Evan winced but didn't step back. If he moved, they would shoot him instantly. RHYX leaned closer, his voice a low growl. "The penalty for touching the Queen is execution." He lifted the spear for the killing blow. The Queen gasped. RHYX froze, not because of Evan, but because of her. Her voice cracked as she tried to speak. "Commander RHYX, listen." Her hand trembled as she reached out weakly. RHYX straightened, torn between duty and loyalty. His spear lowered but did not turn off. Evan could see the battle inside his eyes. RHYX wanted to kill him, but he also wanted to obey his Queen. The Queen tried again to lift herself. "It was not him. He did not hurt me," she whispered. RHYX clenched his jaw. "He touched you," he said, his voice shaking with disbelief. "He carried you." The Queen breathed out slowly. "He saved me from fire." The soldiers looked at each other, confused. Their training told them to obey the Queen, but their commander's rage told them to attack. RHYX stared at Evan with eyes full of conflict. Slowly he stepped back, lowering the spear slightly, not in peace, but in hesitation. "He saved you," RHYX repeated. His voice sounded as if the words hurt him. The Queen nodded weakly. Her body sagged against the rocks. She would be dead without him. Evan said softly. RHYX turned his burning gaze on him again. Silence. He snapped. The soldiers instantly aimed tighter, but RHYX did not strike, not yet. The Queen whispered, "Bring me to the ship, and bring him too." RHYX's eyes widened. His mind could not accept the order. "Your Majesty," he said slowly, "the human is a threat." The Queen shook her head. "He is not." Her voice was soft but firm. RHYX stared at the ground for a moment, wrestling with command. He finally spoke. "Your will is law." He looked at Evan again, this time with anger, distrust, and something else, confusion. "How could a human save our Queen?" The soldiers whispered. Some looked frightened, others shocked. Evan stood still, unsure what would happen next. RHYX motioned to his soldiers. "Take the Queen," he commanded, more gently than before. Then he pointed a spear at Evan. Take the human too, he growled. But he will be watched. His voice dropped low. And if he lies, even once, I will end it myself. The soldiers moved in. Evan felt their eyes on him, sharp and suspicious. He knew he was not safe, not even close. As they lifted the Queen onto a glowing stretcher, she looked at Evan with tired, grateful eyes, and Evan realized something. Saving her was the easy part. Surviving her people would be much harder. The desert wind blew across the landing site as the alien soldiers formed a tight formation around the Queen and the human. The Queen lay weak on the glowing stretcher, her eyes half open, her breath slow and uneven. Evan walked between two armored guards, their weapons pointed at him the whole time. Commander RHYX led the group, his armor blazing with dim violet light, each step filled with cold fury. He kept glancing back at Evan, as if waiting for any excuse to kill him. Evan stayed silent, every movement. Every breath felt dangerous. The soldiers marched in perfect rhythm, their heavy boots striking the sand like drums of war. Evan felt small among them, like a fragile piece of glass surrounded by stone giants. But he kept his head up, because fear would only make things worse. The Queen's stretcher floated beside RHYX, carried by a soft blue energy beam. The Queen turned her head weakly and looked at Evan. Her eyes were tired but calm. Evan gave her a faint nod, a silent message saying he was still here. She blinked slowly in return. The closest thing she had to a smile. RHYX saw the exchange, and his jaw tightened. He raised his spear slightly, the tip glowing brighter. "Do not address the Queen," he snapped. Evan didn't answer. There was no safe answer anyway. The soldiers reached the main ship, a dark silver vessel shaped like a spearhead. Its surface pulsed with veins of lavender light. Doors slid open with a deep metallic hum. A cold mist escaped, covering the entrance like ghostly fog. RHYX signaled. "Take the Queen inside," he ordered. His voice cracked with tension, loyalty, and anger all mixed together. The soldiers stepped forward and guided the floating stretcher into the ship. RHYX turned his gaze to Evan. His yellow eyes burned with something deeper now. Suspicion, fear, and something personal he would never admit. "You will follow." RHYX growled. Two soldiers grabbed Evan's arms roughly, pushing him toward the entrance. Evan stumbled but kept his balance. He didn't fight back. Fighting would mean death, and he knew it. Inside, the ship was dim and cold. The hallways were smooth and curved, pulsing with faint light, as if the ship was breathing. Strange alien symbols glowed softly on the walls. Evan felt like he was walking inside a giant living creature instead of machine. The Queen was taken to a medical chamber. The door slid open, revealing a circular room filled with floating tools, glowing screens, and humming crystals. Alien healers rushed her aside, their hands glowing blue as they checked her wounds. Evan tried to step closer, but RHYX blocked him instantly. "You will stand there," RHYX commanded, pointing to a corner of the room. Evan obeyed. Two soldiers stood beside him, weapons drawn, ready to strike if he breathed wrong. The Queen's voice broke the silence. "RHYX," she whispered. Her voice was soft but carried surprising strength. RHYX instantly knelt beside her. "Yes, my Queen," he answered, his voice trembling with emotion. She looked at him with tired eyes. "You must listen," she whispered. RHYX bowed his head, waiting, but her next words hit him harder than any weapon. "The humans saved me," she said. RHYX stiffened, his anger boiling again. He glanced at Evan with a glare that could burn through steel. "My Queen, with respect. Humans do not do such things," he said. "They destroy, they take, they lie." The Queen closed her eyes briefly. "He did not," she said softly. "He carried me from fire. He shielded me from the blast. He protected me." Her voice trembled as she remembered the burning wreck. "How can you hate him when he saved your Queen?" she whispered. RHYX's eyes dropped to the floor. His hand shook slightly. Duty and hatred fought inside him. He finally said, "If he saved you, then he may speak, but he will not walk free." Evan stepped forward slightly. "I don't need freedom," he said quietly. "I only want to help." RHYX snapped his head up. "You will speak only when asked," he barked, but the Queen lifted her hand weakly. "Let him speak," she whispered. RHYX froze, then bowed his head. "Your will," he said through clenched teeth. Evan looked at the Queen, not RHYX. "I saw your ship falling," he said softly. "No one could survive that, but you did, and I couldn't leave you there." The room became silent. Even the humming tools paused for a moment. The healers exchanged confused glances. A human risking his life for a queen of another race, it was unheard of. R.H. Wyack stood up slowly. His voice was quiet but full of tension. "My queen," he said. "If he stays on this ship, he will cause fear among the soldiers. Humans are seen as enemies." The queen opened her eyes with effort. "Then teach them," she whispered. "Teach them what he did." R.H. Wyack shook his head. "It will not be easy," he said. The queen breathed in slowly. "Nothing worth changing is easy," she whispered. She turned her head toward Evan. "Evan Cole, you will remain with us until I decide your future." Her voice was soft but royal. R.H. Wyack stared at Evan, his expression dark and unreadable. He stepped forward, his shadow covering Evan like a warning. "If the queen orders it," R.H. Wyack growled. "Then you will live for now." He leaned closer. "But know this, human. If you betray her, even in a whisper of a moment, I will end your life before you take another breath." Evan met his stare without stepping back. "I'm not your enemy," he said. R.H. Wyack turned away with a snarl. "We will see," he muttered. But the queen looked at Evan with calm eyes that said she trusted him, or wanted to trust him. And in that moment, Evan realized something. Saving her life had changed everything, but now he was trapped inside a ship full of warriors who wanted him dead. And his only protection was the queen he saved, and the queen who might still die if he failed to help her. The alien ship moved silently through the dark sky, leaving the desert world behind. Inside the ship, everything felt cold, bright, and full of tension. Evan walked to the halls with two soldiers close behind him. They watched him like he was a dangerous animal ready to attack. Every time he took a step, their weapons shifted slightly. It was clear they feared him, or maybe they hated him. Commander R.H. Wyack walked ahead of them with a stiff, angry posture. He didn't look back at Evan even once. His hands were locked behind his back, his shoulders tense. Evan could tell R.H. Wyack was fighting many emotions at once: loyalty to the queen, fear for her safety, and rage at the human who dared touch her. They entered a large chamber filled with alien soldiers. When the soldiers saw Evan, everything stopped. The room went silent. Eyes followed him, cold and sharp like blades. Whispers spread to the air like insects crawling on skin. "A human," one soldier murmured. "What is he doing here?" Another whispered. Some soldiers stepped back. Some stepped closer, curious. Some looked ready to attack him on sight. R.H. Wyack turned to face them. "The queen has spoken," he said in a loud voice. "This human will remain on this ship." The room erupted in confusion. Many soldiers protested. "It is dangerous. He cannot stay. He will betray us." But R.H. Wyack silenced them with a single glare. His authority was absolute. Even when he hated the order, he still obeyed the queen. Just a place to hold him. Two glowing barriers acted as walls on either side. If he tried to escape, they would shock him instantly. R.H. Wyack stepped into the doorway, his yellow eyes sharp. "You will stay here until the queen recovers," he said. Evan nodded. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he replied. R.H. Wyack growled softly. "Your existence is trouble." Then he turned and left. The barriers activated with a soft hum. Evan sat on the cold bench inside the room. He could still feel the heat of the burning wreck in his hands. He had saved the queen, but here he was, a prisoner among the people he saved her from. Hours passed slowly. Alien footsteps echoed in the hallway from time to time. Voices whispered outside, but no one came in. Evan rested his head against the wall. He tried to understand the situation. He had done the right thing. So why did it feel like punishment? The door suddenly opened. Evan looked up as a healer entered, a gentle alien with soft, glowing hands. "The queen is awake," the healer said. "She wishes to speak with you." Evan stood up immediately. His heart tightened. Was she okay? The healer led him through the ship, this time without guards pressing weapons to his back. They entered a long room filled with floating lights and humming crystals. At the center lay the queen, resting on a bed of soft blue energy. She was still weak, but her eyes were brighter. She looked at Evan and gave a small nod. "You came," she said softly. Her voice was calm but tired. "I told them you saved me, but they do not believe easily." Evan stepped closer. "I don't need them to believe," he said. "I just need you to get better." The queen blinked slowly, touched by his honesty. "Humans confuse me," she whispered. "You help, but expect nothing." Evan shrugged a little. "It's normal for us," he said. "We help when someone is in danger." The queen studied him carefully. Her glowing violet eyes searched his face. You are different from the stories, she whispered. In our records, humans are violent. Evan gave a tired smile. Not all of us, he said. And not today. Before the Queen could answer, RHYX entered the room. His armor clinked softly as he stepped forward. He stood beside the Queen, watching Evan with burning suspicion. My Queen, RHYX said, your condition improves. Yes, she whispered. Because of him. RHYX's jaw tightened. He didn't like hearing that. Not at all. He must be interrogated. RHYX insisted. We must know why he was on that planet. Evan opened his mouth, but the Queen raised a weak hand, silencing him. You will question him, but gently, she ordered. RHYX stared at her in disbelief. Gently, she repeated. RHYX bowed. As you command, he said, though bitterness filled his voice. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. The ship shook slightly. Evan grabbed the edge of the bed to keep his balance. The Queen's eyes widened. RHYX instantly reached for his weapon. This is not normal, he said. Something is wrong. The lights flickered again. Sharper this time. A warning alarm echoed through the ship like a cold scream. The healer gasped. One of the glowing screens flashed red. Symbols appeared rapidly. The Queen's expression changed from calm to tense. We are being followed, she whispered. RHYX's eyes narrowed. Who would dare pursue the Queen's ship? He growled. Evan felt a chill crawl up his spine. The Queen turned her head slowly toward him. There's a rival faction, she whispered. They want me dead, and they want no witnesses. RHYX's armor flared with light. Prepare defenses, he commanded the soldiers outside. He looked at Evan with sharp suspicion. Did they follow you? He growled. Evan shook his head. No, I don't even know who they are. RHYX didn't believe him. He stepped closer, towering over Evan. If you are lying, he started, but the Queen interrupted weakly. He speaks truth, she whispered. RHYX clenched his fist but obeyed. The ship shook again, this time harder. Something outside hit the shields. The metallic echo rang through the entire ship. The Queen's eyes dimmed with fear. They are here, she whispered, and they will not stop. RHYX raised a spear. His voice turned cold and sharp. Enemy or ally, he said, glaring at Evan. Today we will find out. The ship shook again, harder than before. Lights flickered wildly as alarms echoed through every hallway. Evan grabbed a wall for balance while soldiers rushed past him. Their weapons glowed brighter with each loud impact striking shields. Commander RHYX stood firm, his jaw tight, his eyes sharp. He looked like a warrior ready to face death without fear. The Queen tried to sit up but winced in pain. Her strength was returning slowly, but not fast enough for a battle. RHYX turned to the healer. Move the Queen to the inner chamber, he ordered. The healer bowed and began lifting the Queen with a floating energy platform. Evan stepped back to give space. He watched her carefully, worried she might collapse. Before leaving, the Queen looked at Evan. Her eyes glowed softly even to the chaos around them. Stay close, she whispered. Evan nodded silently. He didn't know why she trusted him, but he wouldn't break that trust now. As the healer moved her away, RHYX blocked Evan's path. His tall figure cast a long shadow across the floor. You will not leave my sight, RHYX said coldly. Evan sighed but nodded. He had no interest in escaping when the ship was under attack. A violent explosion echoed outside. The entire ship tilted to one side. Evan stumbled, and RHYX caught him by the arm before he fell. Do not slow me down. RHYX growled, letting go quickly. Evan gave a faint smile. Thanks anyway, he said. RHYX only snarled in response. They reached a large command chamber filled with glowing screens and moving holograms. Soldiers shouted updates from every direction. Enemy ships approaching fast. Shields dropping to 70%. Weapons ready. RHYX walked to the center platform. He looked like he belonged there, full of authority and strength. Evan stood near the doorway, feeling out of place. He watched the holograms showing dark shapes closing in from all sides. The enemy ships were smaller but faster. They moved like angry shadows, circling like predators preparing for a final strike. One soldier pointed at the screen. They are targeting our engines, he shouted. RHYX's eyes narrowed. They want to trap us, he said. He raised a hand sharply. All units, prepare counterfire. The ship's cannons fired with bright streaks of blue light. Each shot shook the walls and filled the chamber with a deep humming sound. Some enemy ships burst into flames. Others dodged quickly and returned fire. Evan could feel the heat of the battle even from inside the room. Another explosion hit the ship, louder than the rest. The lights turned red for a moment. A voice rang over the speakers. "Breach in Sector 4. RHYX slammed his fist against the control panel. "Send a squad," he ordered, "and seal the lower passageways." Evan felt a chill run down his spine. If the enemy boarded the ship, he would be trapped in the middle of a war he didn't understand. He took a deep breath to stay calm. His heart pounded, but he refused to panic. Suddenly the room went quiet for a breath. Then an officer turned to RHYX, eyes wide. "My commander," she said. "They are not only attacking. They are searching for something." RHYX's expression darkened. "Or someone," he said slowly. He turned his head sharply toward Evan. Evan felt the weight of that stare like a heavy stone. "You think they're after me?" Evan asked. His voice was quiet but steady. RHYX didn't answer at first. He stepped closer, too close. Humans have been seen working with rival factions before. RHYX said. His voice was low and dangerous. Evan shook his head. "I don't even know who these people are." RHYX studied his face, searching for lies, but he found none. A sudden blast threw them both off balance. Sparks rained from the ceiling as panels broke open. Evan coughed with the smoke, while RHYX steadied himself. "Engines hit," someone shouted. "We are losing speed." RHYX took command again. "Switch to emergency flight path," he ordered. "Focus all shields on the rear engines." Soldiers obeyed instantly, but the next hologram showed something far worse. The enemy ships were forming a tight circle around the Queen's vessel, closing in like a metal trap. Evan felt his stomach twist. They were going to board the ship. They were coming straight for them. RHYX looked at the screen with fury in his eyes. "They dare invade the Queen's ship," he growled. He turned to his soldiers. "All units, prepare for internal combat." Weapons clicked in unison as soldiers prepared for close battle. Evan swallowed hard. He had no weapon, no armor, no experience fighting aliens. He was just a human standing in the middle of soldiers who didn't trust him. RHYX noticed his fear, but instead of mocking him, RHYX tossed him a small metal device. "Press this if you are attacked," RHYX said. "It will create a short energy shield." Evan stared at it gratefully. "Thanks," he said. RHYX only grunted. Before Evan could move, the door burst open on the far side of the chamber. Dark armored enemies rushed in with glowing red blades. Their faces were hidden behind masks. Their movements were fast like shadows, deadly and silent. The battle began instantly. Alien soldiers clashed in flashes of blue and red light. Evan ducked behind a console as sparks flew past him. The ship echoed with screams, shouts, and metal clashing. RHYX fought like a storm. Every strike from his spear knocked an enemy backward, but there were too many. They kept coming, wave after wave. Evan peeked from behind cover. He saw one enemy soldier sneaking behind RHYX. Evan didn't think. He didn't plan. He just moved. He ran straight at the attacker. The enemy turned, surprised. Evan slammed the shield device against the enemy's chest. A burst of blue energy exploded outward, throwing the attacker across the room. RHYX spun around, shocked. Evan stood there, shaking but alive. RHYX stared at him with new eyes. Not with hate, not with suspicion, but with something closer to respect. The battle raged on, and for the first time, Evan and RHYX fought side by side, not as enemies, but as two warriors trying to survive the same storm. The enemy kept pushing forward, and deep inside the ship, the Queen waited, hoping they would reach her before the enemy did. The ship shook under the weight of battle. The enemy forces pushed deeper into halls. Alarms screamed through every corridor. But Evan and RHYX stood side by side, fighting toward the Queen's chamber. Smoke drifted through the air like gray fog. Broken panels sparked on the floor as they ran. RHYX struck down two more attackers with powerful swings of his spear. Evan stayed close behind him, using the small energy shield whenever an enemy got too close. They reached a long hallway filled with flickering lights. At the end of the hall, two enemy soldiers tried to break into the Queen's chamber. RHYX roared in fury. He charged forward with unstoppable force. His spear glowed with bright blue energy as he slammed into the enemy soldiers. The blast knocked him back instantly. Evan rushed to the Queen's chamber door. He typed the emergency code the healer had explained earlier. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the Queen lay on a glowing bed. Her breathing was slow but steady. Her eyes opened weakly when she saw them. RHYX, she whispered. Evan. RHYX kneeled beside her. My queen, he said, his voice filled with worry. We must move you to the escape shuttle. Before the queen could answer, the lights turned red again. A heavy explosion shook the room. The ceiling cracked, dust falling like sand. Evan steadied himself on the wall. RHYX grabbed the queen's stretcher and lifted it with care. But before they could leave, a dark figure stepped into the doorway. One final enemy soldier, larger than the others. His armor was black and red, glowing with danger. He raised his blade. Hand over the queen, he growled. RHYX stepped in front of her instantly. His spear pointed forward. I will die before you touch her, he said. Evan stood beside him, even though his hand was shaking. He tightened his grip on the small shield device. He was not going to run, not now, not after everything. The enemy soldier attacked with incredible speed. RHYX blocked the first strike. Evan dodged the second one by inches. The force of the swing sent sparks flying against the walls. RHYX pushed forward with a powerful counterattack, but the enemy was strong. He caught the spear and twisted it. RHYX stumbled back. His armor sparked from the impact. Evan reacted without thinking. He ran behind the enemy and slammed the shield device into the back of his armor. A burst of blue energy shocked the soldier. He staggered forward. RHYX saw his opening. With one clean strike, he drove his spear into the enemy's chest. The soldier fell to the ground, armor smoking. Silence filled the room for a moment. Only the hum of the ship's failing engines broke the stillness. RHYX breathed hard. He looked at Evan with disbelief and something far softer. You fought well, he said. Evan nodded, exhausted. I just didn't want to die, he replied. But RHYX knew it was more than that. They hurried through the hall to the escape bay. The queen watched them quietly, her eyes full of thought. When they reached the shuttle, RHYX placed her inside gently. He checked her vitals and made sure the systems were working. Evan climbed in after her. But RHYX stayed at the door. He didn't enter. He didn't move. RHYX. The queen said softly, get inside. But RHYX shook his head. My queen, he said, I am sworn to protect the ship. If I leave, the enemy will take this vessel. The queen's eyes filled with sadness. You have served me all your life, she whispered. You have done enough. RHYX looked away. His voice grew quiet. No, my queen, he said, I have one last duty. Evan stepped forward. You don't have to stay, he said, but RHYX shook his head again, his expression calm but firm. Protect her, RHYX said to Evan. His voice carried the weight of trust he never wanted to give, but now must give. Evan felt his throat tighten. He nodded. I will, he promised. RHYX gave a final bow to his queen, then stepped back as the doors began to close. The queen watched her most loyal guard disappear behind the ceiling doors. Her voice cracked as she whispered, Goodbye, old friend. The shuttle launched in the ship with a loud blast of energy. Evan felt gravity push him back in his seat. Through the small window, he watched the queen's ship burn in the darkness. Enemy vessels swarmed around it like black insects. A bright explosion tore across the sky. The queen closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. Evan stayed silent. He knew RHYX had fulfilled his final duty. The shuttle drifted toward a safe zone marked by friendly beacons. For the first time since the wreck, the queen's voice sounded stronger. Evan, she said softly. He turned to her. Yes? You saved my life, she whispered. Her eyes held gratitude and something deeper. No human has ever done what you did. Evan shook his head. I just did what anyone should do, he said quietly. But not everyone would, she replied. The shuttle glided through the stars, far from danger, far from fire and destruction. The queen rested back against the seat. You changed everything today, she said. Evan didn't understand, but he knew something important had happened. He had saved an alien queen. He had earned the respect of her strongest warrior, and he had survived a battle among the stars. The queen looked at him one last time before closing her eyes to rest. Your world will hear of this, she whispered. A human who saved a queen. Evan stared out at the stars, feeling small, feeling tired, but also feeling something new. Hope. And so the story ended. not with death, not with fear, but with a bond between two worlds, all because one human reached into burning wreckage and chose to save a life